The natural world is teeming with a multitude of defensive mechanisms that help species survive the relentless challenges posed by predators, environmental threats, and injuries. Among these, the evolution of hard, protective exoskeletons or shells has played a significant role in the survival of many species, allowing them to thrive in otherwise hostile environments. While turtles are perhaps the most iconic example of a species with a protective shell, the armadillo also has a unique form of armor that has captured the attention of researchers. Despite the outward similarities in function, both armadillo and turtle shells provide a formidable defense. The structural, biological, and evolutionary differences between these shells are vast. In this article, we will compare and contrast the shell of the armadillo and the turtle, exploring their composition, functional roles, and the evolutionary processes that gave rise to these extraordinary adaptations. By investigating these protective adaptations, we can appreciate the remarkable diversity of defensive strategies employed by animals across the evolutionary tree. This analysis will highlight how different species have converged on similar solutions to the same problem, surviving predation, while employing radically different evolutionary tools. Armadillos, members of the order Cingulata and family Dasopodidae, are one of the few groups of mammals that have evolved to develop a hard, protective shell. This shell, made up of bony plates covered in keratin, allows armadillos to defend themselves from predators. With their origins in South America, armadillos have a rich evolutionary history that spans millions of years. Today, several species of armadillos exist, including the most well-known, the nine-banded armadillo, Dasypus novum cinctus, which has expanded its range as far north as the United States. Each species of armadillo has slight variations in its shell, which correlate with their specific environmental needs and predation pressures. For example, the three-banded armadillo has the unique ability to roll itself into a complete ball, protecting its vulnerable underbelly from attack. Other species, like the giant armadillo, Priodonts maximus, are too large to roll into a ball, but their sheer size and thick armor serve as adequate protection against most predators. The armadillo's shell is primarily defensive in nature, but unlike turtles, their mobility is not significantly compromised. Armadillos remain active and agile, relying on a combination of their shell, speed, and burrowing ability to survive. Turtles are part of the order Testudines, an ancient lineage of reptiles that has existed for over 200 million years. Turtles are found in almost every type of environment on Earth, from arid deserts to vast oceans, and they have evolved diverse forms of shells to suit these habitats. While all turtles have a hard, protective shell, the shape, size, and rigidity of this shell vary greatly depending on the species and their ecological niche. Turtles can be divided into two main categories: terrestrial tortoises and aquatic turtles. Each group has its own specific adaptations. Tortoises, which live on land, tend to have high-domed, rigid shells that protect them from terrestrial predators. Aquatic turtles, like sea turtles, have flatter, more hydrodynamic shells that facilitate easier movement in water, allowing them to escape aquatic predators. One of the most remarkable features of the turtle's shell is that it is directly integrated into their skeleton. The carapace, upper shell, and plastron, lower shell, are fused with the turtle's ribs and vertebrae, providing a rigid, strong structure that offers unparalleled protection from predation. However, this structure comes at the cost of flexibility and speed, leaving turtles to rely on their shell rather than mobility to evade predators. The armadillo's shell is composed of bony plates known as osteoderms. These osteoderms are unique in that they are embedded within the skin, unlike the turtle's shell, which is a fused part of the skeleton. The outer layer of the armadillo's shell is covered with keratin, the same material that makes up human nails and hair. This keratin layer is important because it adds an additional level of protection, making the armadillo's armor both durable and flexible. The segmentation of the osteoderms allows for greater flexibility, making it possible for the armadillo to maintain significant mobility despite being encased in armor. This is particularly true for the three-banded armadillo, which can completely roll into a ball, using its shell as a defensive barrier. The flexibility of the armadillo's shell stands in contrast to the rigid structure of the turtle's shell, as it allows for greater agility and movement, crucial for escaping threats and digging burrows. Interestingly, the osteoderms found in armadillos are not unique to them. they are a type of dermal bone that can be found in other animals, such as crocodiles and some species of lizards. However, armadillos are unique among mammals in developing such extensive bony armor, making them an evolutionary oddity within their class. The turtle's shell is one of the most extraordinary adaptations in the animal kingdom, both in terms of its structure and its integration with the skeleton. The carapace and plastron are made of fused bones, including the ribs and vertebrae, which are covered by scuts, keratinized plates that provide additional protection. Unlike armadillos, where the shell is a flexible layer of external armor, the turtle's shell is part of its skeletal system, offering a rigid and impenetrable shield against predators. The turtle's shell is not just a defensive structure, it also serves as a means of protection from environmental stressors. The thick, domed shells of tortoises, for example, help to conserve water in arid environments by reducing surface area exposed to the sun. Additionally, the large, domed shells can protect the turtle from falling rocks or attacks from predators like birds of prey. The rigidity of the turtle's shell, however, limits its mobility. While some turtles can retract their heads and limbs into their shells, this comes at the expense of agility and speed. For most species, the shell is their primary line of defense, and they rely on it almost exclusively to deter predators. In aquatic species, the shell has become more streamlined to allow for greater swimming efficiency, with sea turtles evolving thinner, flatter shells that reduce drag in the water. The primary function of the armadillo's shell is to protect the animal from predators. Armadillos have a number of natural enemies, including large cats like jaguars and pumas, as well as birds of prey. The shell provides a tough, durable barrier against bites and scratches, giving the armadillo enough time to either flee or curl into a defensive position. Armadillos have also evolved behavioral adaptations to complement their physical armor. For instance, some armadillo species will leap vertically into the air when startled, a behavior that serves to confuse and deter predators. Once in the air, the armadillo often has enough time to flee or burrow into the ground for safety. In addition to protection, the armadillo's shell plays an important role in its lifestyle as a burrower. Armadillos dig complex burrow systems, where they live, store food, and raise their young. The flexibility of their armor allows them to squeeze into tight spaces and navigate through the dirt without the rigidity that would hinder movement in other species, such as turtles. For turtles, the shell functions primarily as a protective shield against predation. The structure of the turtle's shell, being fused with the skeleton, means that turtles can rely heavily on their shell to avoid predators. Box turtles, for instance, have a hinged plastron that allows them to completely close up, leaving no vulnerable parts exposed to predators. This makes them almost impervious to attacks, as most predators are unable to crack or bypass the hard shell. However, the rigidity of the turtle's shell comes with significant limitations. Turtles are generally slow-moving animals, unable to rely on speed or agility to escape threats. Instead, they depend almost entirely on the protective power of their shells. This strategy works well for avoiding predation, but it leaves turtles vulnerable to other dangers, such as environmental changes and human interference. For example, turtles are often unable to flee quickly from approaching vehicles or habitat destruction. Despite these limitations, the turtle's shell has allowed the species to thrive for millions of years. It is a simple, yet effective form of defense that has stood the test of time. Armadillos belong to the superorder Xenathra, which also includes sloths and anteaters. This group of animals evolved in South America around 60 million years ago, shortly after the dinosaurs went extinct. The development of the armadillo's shell likely occurred as a result of predation pressures in their environment. With large predators like saber-toothed cats and terror birds roaming the continent, the armadillo's armor became a crucial adaptation for survival. Throughout their evolutionary history, armadillos have maintained a relatively consistent body plan, with their shell being a defining feature. Over time, the armadillo's shell evolved to accommodate both defensive and burrowing functions. The segmented design allowed for greater flexibility than the rigid shells of other armored animals, such as glyptodonts, which were large prehistoric relatives of armadillos. Glyptodonts had massive, dome-like shells that were much more rigid, resembling that of a turtle's, but this made them slow-moving and vulnerable to extinction when their large size became a disadvantage. The flexibility of the armadillo's shell also suggests an evolutionary balance between the need for protection and the need for mobility. In regions where predation is less of a concern, armadillos tend to rely more on their burrowing ability and camouflage, whereas in predator-dense environments, their shell is the primary line of defense. Modern armadillos have adapted to a variety of environments, from deserts to rainforests, further proving the evolutionary versatility of their shell. They are also one of the few species that have managed to thrive despite urbanization, with 9 banded armadillos now commonly found in suburban areas in the United States. Their flexible shell allows them to navigate a range of habitats, including man-made environments, without significant detriment to their survival. The evolution of the turtle's shell is one of the most fascinating examples of structural adaptation in the animal kingdom. Turtles are part of the larger group of reptiles known as Gynapsida, and their lineage diverged from other reptiles around 230 million years ago. Early fossil evidence, such as that of Proganocles, reveals that turtles had shells that were very similar to modern-day species, though these ancient turtles were unable to retract their heads into their shells. The turtle's shell evolved primarily as a defensive mechanism, offering protection from predators in a variety of environments. Over millions of years, different species of turtles adapted to specific niches. For example, aquatic turtles developed more streamlined shells to reduce drag in water, while land-dwelling tortoises evolved domed shells that made it difficult for predators to get a grip on them. The fusion of the turtle's ribs and vertebrae into the shell is an unusual evolutionary adaptation that is not seen in any other group of animals. This unique feature provided turtles with an exceptionally strong and durable defense mechanism. However, this also limited their speed and flexibility, forcing turtles to rely on other survival strategies, such as camouflage, burrowing, and retracting into their shells. One of the key evolutionary innovations in turtles is the development of hinged shells, which allow some species, such as the box turtle, to completely enclose themselves within their shell. This adaptation provided an extra layer of defense against predators, making it nearly impossible for predators to penetrate the turtle's armor. Armadillos are primarily terrestrial animals, and their shell is perfectly suited for life on the ground. Their flexible armor allows them to navigate through dense vegetation, dig burrows, and escape predators by quickly retreating into the safety of their underground homes. Armadillos also use their shell as a shield when foraging, often pressing their armor against hard surfaces like rocks or tree trunks to deter potential attacks from predators. In regions where large predators such as jaguars, pumas, and birds of prey are common, the armadillo's shell provides a crucial line of defense. When threatened, armadillos will often curl into a ball or press their vulnerable underbellies against the ground, exposing only their armored back to predators. This tactic is highly effective against smaller predators, but larger animals may still be able to breach the shell with enough force. Armadillos have also adapted to a range of environmental conditions, from the dry deserts of the southwestern United States to the humid rainforests of South America. In each of these environments, their shell plays a critical role in protecting them from both predators and environmental hazards. For instance, in dry, arid regions, the shell helps conserve water by reducing the amount of surface area exposed to the sun, much like the high-domed shells of desert tortoises. Turtles have adapted to live in a wide variety of habitats, including freshwater lakes and rivers, brackish estuaries, and the open ocean. Their shells have evolved to suit their environment, with aquatic species featuring more streamlined, hydrodynamic designs, while terrestrial species have evolved thicker, more protective armor. Aquatic turtles, such as sea turtles and freshwater terrapins, have relatively flatter shells that allow them to move efficiently through water. Their shells are not as thick or heavy as those of their terrestrial relatives, as they rely more on speed and agility to escape predators. Sea turtles, in particular, have evolved to migrate long distances across oceans, and their streamlined shells help minimize drag and reduce energy expenditure during these migrations. Terrestrial turtles, such as tortoises, have evolved thick, high-domed shells that provide significant protection from predators. These shells are designed to be impenetrable, as most predators are unable to apply enough force to crack the hard exterior. The dome shape also makes it difficult for predators to get a grip on the turtle's shell, further enhancing its defensive capabilities. In desert environments, tortoises have evolved shells that help them conserve water and regulate body temperature. The thick, domed shell reduces exposure to the sun and prevents water loss through evaporation, allowing the tortoise to survive in harsh, arid conditions. These adaptations have enabled turtles to thrive in some of the most inhospitable environments on Earth. Armadillos, though well protected by their shells, have a relatively short lifespan compared to turtles. Most species of armadillos live for around 10 to 15 years in the wild, though some individuals in captivity have been known to live longer. The armadillo's shell offers significant protection from predators, but it does not provide immunity from other environmental threats, such as disease, habitat destruction, and competition for food. Despite their short lifespan, armadillos are prolific breeders, and their ability to reproduce rapidly has allowed them to maintain stable populations in the wild. The armadillo's shell plays a critical role in ensuring the survival of each individual, allowing them to avoid predation long enough to reproduce and pass on their genes to the next generation. In areas where armadillos have expanded their range, such as the southern United States, their shells have helped them adapt to new environments and avoid predation by animals that are unfamiliar with their defensive capabilities. This adaptability has allowed armadillos to thrive in a range of habitats, from tropical rainforests to suburban neighborhoods. Turtles are known for their extraordinary longevity, with some species living for over 100 years. The Galapagos tortoise, for example, can live for more than a century, and there are records of individual turtles living for up to 150 years. This incredible lifespan is largely due to the turtle's shell, which provides unmatched protection from predators and environmental hazards. The turtle's shell allows them to outlive many of their predators, ensuring that they can reproduce multiple times throughout their long life. This longevity has contributed to the success of turtles as a species, allowing them to survive mass extinction events, climate changes, and other environmental pressures. However, turtles are not immune to threats. Human activity, such as habitat destruction, poaching, and pollution, has had a devastating impact on many turtle populations. Despite their protective shells, turtles are vulnerable to these human-induced threats, and many species are now considered endangered. The turtle's shell, while offering protection from natural predators, cannot shield them from the broader environmental challenges posed by human activity. Conservation efforts are crucial to ensuring the survival of these ancient reptiles in the modern world. The differences between the armadillo's and turtle's shells highlight the remarkable diversity of evolutionary adaptations in the natural world. While both species have developed protective armor as a defense against predators, the structure, function, and evolutionary history of their shells are vastly different. Armadillos, as mammals, have evolved flexible, segmented armor that allows them to combine protection with mobility, while turtles, as reptiles, have developed rigid, fused shells that provide unmatched defense but at the cost of agility. These adaptations reflect the unique challenges faced by each species in their respective environments. Armadillos rely on their shells for protection while maintaining the ability to burrow and escape from predators, whereas turtles depend on their shells as their primary defense, sacrificing mobility for safety. The study of these protective structures not only enhances our understanding of the evolutionary processes that shape the natural world but also underscores the importance of conservation efforts to protect these species from the growing threats posed by human activity. Both armadillos and turtles are living examples of how nature finds diverse solutions to the same problem: survival in a world filled with predators and environmental challenges.